Welcome to another video from the paint experiments. It's been quite a while since I had time to film one of these, with spring being here and some yard work and busy life events. But I'm back now and I have this swatches here. It's mostly Alizarin Crimson and substitutes for that beautiful but also light fading color. So yeah, I'm a little rusty. These are the swatches I have. I have Alizarin Crimson from Winsor&Newton, Alizarin Crimson from Sennelier, Carmine from Daniel Smith, Permanent Alizarin Crimson from Core, Alizarin Crimson, Quinacridone from DaVinci, and some Bright Red from Sennelier, which some sources mentioned that might be a PR3, Crimson Lake from Sennelier, and Carmine from Sennelier. On the swatches, of course, there's some differences, but not significant enough. In mixes, they might act a little bit different, but we'll see their properties and maybe we'll do some mixing, especially with the ones that are more different. Like I have the Alizarin Crimson here from Winsor&Newton. That is very different from this Carmine from Sennelier. This is much darker and warmer. And also light fastness. We did some tests and I have 3 of them. I was surprised that the Bright Red stayed the same, but of course the PR83 faded, and this Crimson Lake had kind of a mixed review, some fading, changes in hue also noted. I'm gonna fast forward to my swatches and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it and see what you think. And then the swatches are almost dry. I have a few layers here that I just painted over, but they're close enough so we can take a look and kind of get an idea of what these paints are doing, how they behave. The PR83, so that's the Alizarin Crimson, very beautiful pigment, very hard to replicate because the red looks almost cool in the mass tone, but then in the diluted part it has a slightly warmer, almost brownish color. I wouldn't say orange, a little bit desaturated, very hard to explain. Compared to the Carmine, it's almost like a pink in a light form, so that would be the only difference. I want to say if I would prefer to use the Daniel Smith Carmine, maybe add just a tiny little bit of perhaps red iron oxide. I'm not sure, I'll have to play around. It's definitely interesting. I mean, these two colors in the mass tone, they look almost identical, but then when they're diluted, they act there's enough difference that I can see why somebody would prefer one over the other. The permanent alizarin crimson from Core, it was quite interesting. I've been using this color, especially when I paint with red, to create like a darker red. It has some interesting property, and it might be just the way it reacts to water. I might try to bring it closer to the camera for you to see it. The paint separates almost like I wouldn't say granulating. You can see right there in the lighter form, it's kind of like has those little white veins, and I'm not sure if that's the water or the paper or just the pigment itself. And then it also has a somewhat desaturated bright red. In the mass tone, I would say it probably comes the closest. It has that vibrancy, but then diluted, it does have the similar desaturated red. It's just that unusual texture and almost like a brownish granulation. And then on the next page, of course, these colors, especially the bright red and the crimson lake from Sennelier, on the little swatches I have, they seem similar to Alizarin Crimson, but now they look closer to like a Quinacridone red or even like a coral. Let me try and find a swatch for those colors and put them side by side. And here they are, Queen Red from Winsor&Newton and Queen Coral. So yeah, when I look closer, they're definitely much cooler. There's a little bit more orange in these swatches, so I'll leave them for now in this category with the Alizarin Crimson. Of course, you don't need all these colors, all these types of red. I think find one that by adding a certain other color you can get it more cool or more warm, and then also look at the properties. Opacity wise, only this Crimson Lake and this bright red, there are some sediments on the marker line. Other than that, I don't see anything. Perhaps maybe the core one, but it's kind of dark. The Carmine from Sennelier, very similar to the Carmine from Daniel Smith. Maybe it doesn't get as dark in the mass tone, but I had too much water there, so disregard that. I like this bloom, similar to the Daniel Smith, so those are very close together. Alizarin Crimson from DaVinci. This is an interesting one. I think it matches the original PR83 the best, except for like a brownish separation. I wouldn't call it granulation necessarily, but you can see here how it disperses in water. It creates those pockets of deeper brown. And when I paint with this particular color, especially if I paint florals, I do not like that effect. But especially in the diluted form, I would say very close. In a mass tone, that brown effect is enhanced. So yeah, I'm still on the fence with this one. I might use it in landscapes, but that is about it. Final conclusion, what color would I use to replace this Alizarin Crimson? Very likely the Carmine from Daniel Smith. Although I haven't done a light fast test on the PR176, I would probably do that. And then find a color that mixed with it can give me in the lighter version a more warm desaturated red. Another thing I've noticed, I don't paint with red as much as I would like to. Lately I've been using colors that are more like in this combination, this blue gray and yellow, especially the Quinacridone yellow and this beautiful raw sienna, and they would make a nice triad palette. But when painting with red, I never know how to use it to create like a bright effect. I feel like I always get a purple, or if I paint with it next to yellow, I would get an orange. The only successful painting I really have with red is this sketch I painted in 2020 when I followed Theo here on YouTube. He had a series with the alphabet where he painted with every letter, and for letter J I painted a Jack in a box, and I use a lot of red. This is more of a warm red than the one I swatched today, but the only thing that I think made me like this, it's the bright red next to a dark desaturated color. This was a mix of maybe Prussian blue and some yellow, and that makes this red stand out and look really good. So if you have any tips on painting with red, write them down in the comments, share them with me, and have a happy painting day. Hopefully the next video it won't be so far apart. We're still in the reds family. Hopefully we get out of here soon into the oranges, and happy painting everyone.